Thanks for joining me, Arden Carvalho, on the Slipper Still Fits. Gonzaga's had a lot of spectacular point guards come through the program, and today we got one of them to join us. That's Kevin Pangos, who was with the Zags from 2011 to 2015. Kevin, thanks for joining me in the site, man.
No, thanks for having me.
You know, that 2014-15 group that made the Elite Eight in the NCAA tournament, some context for you, kind of helped make my decision to really come over to Gonzaga as an undergraduate the next year. What made that group work so well throughout the season and then leading into March?
Um, I think a lot of things. I think obviously we had some experience, which was nice. We had, me and GB and then Shem, a bunch of guys, Wilch, that have been around for a lot of years. And I think with that was guys were willing to just do their job. They didn't care who got the recognition, but at the end of the day, they just wanted to win. And I think that really came together at the end of the season and we showcased it.
Yeah, and you were present for one of the other guys on that team, his ceremony up in Spokane, Washington. That's Domantas Sabonis, celebrating his donation towards the strength and conditioning facilities and just the program in general. You guys played with each other, like I said, during that 14-15 season. But what kind of teammate was he, and how did you really expect him to be the NBA player that he has become today?
It's hard to say. I knew he was prepared to do something big. I think you could see in his mentality from day one. He came in with like a look in his eye of like he meant business. And it's crazy because he was unbelievable his freshman year when I was there. And his sophomore year was even better, but then his career's just gone up and up and up. And for the people that were there, it's no real surprise because
Mhm.
you see the work he puts in, how competitive he is, but it's just crazy to see how many All-Star games they've been in and just his resume that he's built has been pretty impressive.
Yeah, Sabonis, one of the great bigs to come through the program, but you, one of the great lead guards to come through. What makes, the Gonzaga program kind of like a destination for floor leaders to come and play under Coach Marfil?
Yeah, for me it was a lot of the guys ahead of me I looked at and I was like, you know what, I want to be one of those next guys. It was the
Mhm.
Ravios, Dick Owls, Blake Steps, Santangelo, Jeremy Pargos, like I might be missing someone. There's been so many, and
Yeah,
so to be one of those next guys that could help lead Gonzaga to great success was exciting for me, and I saw that they valued guys that were team players and team first guys that wanted to win, and that was really important to me. And so during the recruitment process, it made it pretty simple to make my decision, and I think just from there, all these years since, guys have just surpassed that.
Mhm.
What they've been able to accomplish. Obviously, getting a national championship twice has been really impressive, and I think it's just going to keep going forward that way.
I'm not sure really how familiar you're with what's happening right now with Gonzaga's program this offseason, but the Zags have found themselves back on the market, looking for another lead guard. What kind of characteristics do you think the program looks for in that one spot? And with that being said, also, what would you say to convince maybe another recruit to come over to Gonzaga that plays the same position as you do?
Just like I said, winners at the end of the day. I think that they value guys that want to win, and that means doing whatever it takes. It's being unselfish. It's having the ball in your hands at the end of the game and making the big play and taking that responsibility. Is being vocal. Is diving on the floor for loose balls. Like literally whatever it takes to win is what Gonzaga values. And so I've talked to many guys in the past. The Nemharts that I know really well, and when they were at their other schools, it's nothing against those schools, but I just kept on saying like, "Hey, the Zags are a great spot to be," and they finally understood. Um, but I think that's the thing going forward with whatever guard it may be. It's like if you want to win and compete at the highest level, Gonzaga is a great spot for you, and you can showcase your individual talents at the same time.
I'm glad you mentioned Nemhard because I wanted to talk about your home roots, your country of Canada. That's become one of the more like strong recruiting pipelines for the Zags, and it really started kind of with you and Kelly Olynyk. What have you seen or noticed with all the players coming out of there to the Pacific Northwest over the years, like Nemhard?
Yeah, I think it's just it's kind of made sense. I think I don't know if it's just a fluke that it's been a lot of guys north of the border
Yeah,
like us, but um, I think that Gonzaga's system values it, and I think the players coming out of there really value it. And I think once you see one, like for me, it was Kells, and we had some of the same coaches
yeah.
growing up in the national team, and they kind of introduced, I don't know which one it was, to the staff first or to me, the staff, and then they came out and watched me, and it was kind of a no-brainer at that point, and same thing with the Nemhard. So I think once, the staff was involved in my recruitment and then the national team stuff, and they saw some people, Nemhards from the same area, it's like, it's an easy connection, So, I think that's probably really it. Just, once you get that pipeline, the familiarity with the people from that area, it just goes together.
That's awesome. Hopefully, we can continue that for the coming
That'd be great.
seasons and
Yeah.
years. But let's talk about your playing days after Gonzaga. You become one of the more accomplished guards to ever even come through the Euro League. I just was curious, like, how would you compare that high level of competition to that one season that you played in the NBA with the Cavs back in 2021, 2022? Like, what's the difference between the styles of play that you noticed?
Oh, I don't know if we have enough time. It really is a big difference. I would say overseas is a lot more similar to college
Okay.
with that way, the rules as well, just the way that the game is played and the spacing on the court. It's much more similar to college. The gaps are tighter, the physicality in those spaces, the rules, the defensive
Yeah.
rules and
Yeah.
the time on the clock. You don't have 48-minute quarters. And so those factors for sure. It's a lot of set-based things. So, you're running offenses and you're kind of taking your time to get the best shot where once you get to the league, it's more spread out, it's more
Mhm.
spaced, more free flowing, and you just kind of when you get the ball, you just got to go make a play, And it was difficult transition for me because coming from overseas, I'd been in that system for 6 years, and
Mhm.
I'd really understood it and gotten to the point where I was at one of the peaks years of my career. Um, and then coming back to the NBA was a big transition where it's like, whoa, this is a completely different game. It is basketball, but the shots you're shooting are different, and the flow of the offense is different, and what you're expected is a lot different. And now I'm not playing for 2, 3 months at a time, and then all of a sudden, like, boom, you're playing a lot of minutes. So
Mhm.
that's different from playing 35 minutes straight, or in the game out of the 40 minutes. So there was a lot of differences. But honestly, I'm very glad and fortunate I got to experience both. Like people might look on it from the outside and be like, "Oh, he went to the NBA, it didn't work out," but it was one of the best decisions I made. I turned down some big contracts overseas for just the opportunity
Yeah.
to make the league, and I eventually got the guaranteed contract with the Cavs. Um, but it's what I dreamt of growing up, and I was able to give myself a chance to showcase myself at the highest level. And so I learned a ton. I don't regret it one bit, and I'm just appreciative for my entire journey.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear. Kevin, thanks so much for your time. And one final one. I know you're on dad duty, so you got to get out of here. But when reflecting on your vast basketball career from Gonzaga to the Euro League to that one season in the NBA, what has made you really the most proud of your career thus far?
I think the resilience aspect of it, I don't want to give myself too too much praise in this and that. I've never been
Mhm.
a fan of that, but when I do look back, it goes like I'm most proud of those difficult moments, was when I just put my head down and buried through it, whether it's the odds against me being undersized guard, to play the highest level, whether it's adversity with injuries or adversity with, missing certain shots or not making plays or not executing in certain scenarios. And then just continue to put my head down and work my way through it. I think I'm most proud of myself for. And I look back and those are the moments I really appreciate because I grew a ton in those
Yeah.
windows. So, it's great the accomplishments. I had some good ones throughout my career, in college and as a pro and stuff, but definitely the other moments are the ones that I really think of and go like, I cherish those ones for myself currently now and to carry with me to the future.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you sure did grow a lot through your career. But once again, thanks, Kevin. Really appreciate it. You're an all-time Zag. And thanks for giving up some of your time for the Foot Slippers Show Fits. It means a lot.
No, for sure. Thanks for having me on. This was great.